The arrival of the XT-97 cruiser. The XT-97 cruiser tore through the vast expanse of space, its sleek black frame reflecting the dim light of distant stars. It was a technological marvel, a symbol of the Caliph Empire's dominance. For centuries, the Caliph had crushed countless civilizations under their heel, subjugating entire worlds with ease. Yet their newest target, a small blue-green planet called Earth, seemed almost laughably primitive. Commander Vuri stood tall on the bridge, his reptilian scales glinting under the sterile light of the control panels. His crew worked efficiently, their clawed hands gliding over the holographic interfaces. A faint hiss of satisfaction escaped his lips as the ship breached Earth's upper atmosphere. "Primitive," he muttered, his voice dripping with disdain. "They still rely on fossil fuels for energy. Their weapons are centuries behind our technology. This conquest will be nothing more than a training exercise for our troops." Around him, the crew laughed in agreement. They had studied Earth's history, its wars, its technology. Humans were resourceful, yes, but their weapons, guns, missiles, tanks were laughable compared to the Caliph's plasma cannons, energy shields, and gravity manipulators. As the ship descended, the planet's surface came into view. Rolling green fields, sprawling cities, and endless oceans stretched out below. It was beautiful in a way, but to the Caliph, it was simply another resource-rich world to exploit. "Prepare the landing pods," Vur commanded. "We will make contact with their leaders. If they surrender willingly, they may yet serve us as laborers. If not..." He trailed off, his sharp teeth flashing in a cruel smile. In the shadows of the bridge, a junior officer hesitated. Lieutenant Nera was young by Caliph standards, her scales still a dull gray. She had studied Earth extensively during her academy years, and something about the humans unsettled her. They were unpredictable, resilient, and fiercely independent. Yet, she said nothing. Questioning the commander was tantamount to treason. As the cruiser hovered above Earth, its massive engines creating a deafening roar, humanity looked to the skies. Across the globe, governments scrambled to respond. Military forces were mobilized, but against a ship of this size and power, what could they do? In a secret underground bunker, General Marcus Graves stood before a room of grim-faced leaders. The world's top military minds had gathered, their screens filled with live feeds of the alien vessel. "We've prepared for this day," Marcus said, his voice steady. "We've suspected for years that we weren't alone in the universe, and while our weapons may seem primitive compared to theirs, we have one advantage they don't expect: our unpredictability." The room fell silent as Marcus outlined the plan. It was audacious, reckless even, but it was humanity's only hope. The Caliph's landing pods descended like fiery comets, touching down in major cities around the globe. Their soldiers emerged, tall and imposing, armed with weapons that could disintegrate a tank in seconds. They marched through the streets, their holographic translators broadcasting a single message: "Surrender, and you will be spared. Resist, and you will be annihilated." In a small town in the American Midwest, a young woman named Sarah watched the broadcast from her living room. Her father, a retired soldier, stood behind her, his face grim. "They don't understand us," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "They think we're weak because we don't have their technology. But they don't know what we're capable of when we're pushed to the edge." That night, the town gathered in the old high school gymnasium. Farmers, mechanics, teachers, all of them came together, armed with hunting rifles, shotguns, and an assortment of homemade weapons. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," Sarah's father said, addressing the crowd. "We're fighting for our planet, for our way of life. And if they think we're going to roll over and surrender, they're in for a surprise." Back on the XT-97 cruiser, Commander Vuri watched the humans' feeble attempts to resist. Reports of small skirmishes trickled in, but the Caliph soldiers quickly crushed each one. "These humans are more stubborn than I expected," Vri admitted, though his tone remained dismissive. No matter. Their resistance is futile. Lieutenant Nera, standing at her station, couldn't shake the feeling that they were underestimating their enemy. She had seen the desperation in humanity's history, the way they fought against impossible odds. But once again, she kept her thoughts to herself. As the Caliph forces pushed deeper into Earth's cities, they began to encounter unexpected resistance. Underground bunkers equipped with EMP devices disabled their technology. Guerrilla fighters used the terrain to their advantage, ambushing Caliph patrols and vanishing into the shadows. And then came the guns. At first, the Caliph soldiers laughed when they saw the humans' weapons. Bullets against energy shields. It was almost too ridiculous to take seriously. But when the first shield failed, crackling with energy as a high-caliber round tore through it, the laughter stopped. On the battlefield outside a ruined city, General Marcus Graves led a small force of soldiers armed with experimental weapons. These weren't ordinary guns. They had been designed in secret, reverse-engineered from alien technology recovered in previous encounters. The Caliph advanced confidently, their plasma cannons glowing ominously. Marcus raised his rifle, aimed, and fired. The projectile struck a Caliph soldier's armor, bypassing its energy shield and detonating with a force that sent the alien flying. Now, Marcus shouted, and his troops opened fire. The battlefield erupted into chaos. The Caliph, for the first time in centuries, found themselves on the defensive. Their shields were failing, their armor cracking, and their formations breaking apart. As the battle raged, Commander Vri watched from the cruiser, his confidence giving way to unease. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our defenses." Lieutenant Nera stepped forward, her voice hesitant. "Commander, I believe we've underestimated them. Humans have a history of adapting to challenges. They're not as primitive as we thought." Vri's eyes narrowed. "Then we will crush them completely. Prepare the orbital cannons." But humanity wasn't done surprising the Caliph. In hidden bunkers across the globe, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to refine their weapons. They used every scrap of alien technology they could find, combining it with their own innovations. And as the XT-97 cruiser prepared to unleash its orbital cannons, humanity prepared its counterattack. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of Earth and show the galaxy why you should never underestimate the human spirit. Humanity strikes back. The skies above Earth crackled with tension as the XT-97 cruiser hovered menacingly, its massive silhouette blotting out the stars. Across the planet, humanity braced itself for what many feared would be the final blow. The Caliph, confident in their technological superiority, began preparing their orbital cannons. Massive weapons capable of reducing entire cities to ash in mere seconds. Yet, beneath the surface, something stirred. Humanity's ingenuity, born from centuries of war, survival, and relentless perseverance, had awakened. The hidden resistance. Miles beneath the mountains of Colorado, inside the classified bunker known as Ironclad, scientists and military strategists crowded around holographic displays. General Marcus Graves stood at the head of the room, his piercing gaze sweeping over the faces of men and women working tirelessly to push humanity's weapons to their limits. "Commander Vri believes he's already won," Marcus began, his gravelly voice echoing off the cold metal walls. "But they don't understand us. They've mistaken our reluctance for weakness. Tonight, we remind them that Earth isn't just a target. It's a graveyard for invaders." Dr. Helena Park, the head scientist, stepped forward. Her team had been analyzing fragments of alien technology salvaged from downed Caliph patrols. "We've managed to adapt portions of their energy shielding to fit our vehicles. It's rudimentary, but it should hold against low-level plasma fire." Marcus nodded. "And the projectile disruptors?" Helena's lips curled into a rare smile. "Operational. They won't know what hit them." The disruptors were humanity's trump card, bullets embedded with nanodisruptors designed to bypass energy shields by destabilizing the molecular integrity of their targets. It was crude compared to the sleek precision of alien weaponry, but it was deadly. The first strike. As darkness blanketed the eastern seaboard, resistance cells emerged from the shadows. In cities across the globe, ordinary citizens transformed into guerrilla fighters, armed with everything from ancient rifles to experimental plasma prototypes cobbled together in underground labs. Sarah, the young woman from the Midwest, clutched a modified sniper rifle as she crouched atop a rooftop overlooking her town's main square. Beside her, her father scanned the streets with binoculars. The Caliph soldiers patrolled below, their imposing figures glowing under the light of street lamps. "Wait for my mark," her father whispered. Sarah's heart pounded as her finger rested on the trigger. The Caliph soldiers laughed, oblivious to the humans hidden in the dark. One of them stopped to examine a faded war memorial, a statue of a soldier clutching a rifle. "Relics," the alien sneered. Her father's hand signaled. Sarah exhaled and pulled the trigger. The bullet struck with surgical precision, piercing the soldier's energy shield as if it were paper. The Caliph collapsed, and for a heartbeat, silence filled the square. Then all hell broke loose. Fighters emerged from alleys, their weapons blazing. Plasma grenades detonated against armored walkers, and makeshift explosives planted by resistance engineers tore through enemy lines. The Caliph, caught off guard, scrambled to form defensive perimeters, but the humans were relentless. A global uprising. From the jungles of South America to the frozen tundras of Siberia, humanity struck back in unison. In Paris, resistance fighters detonated EMP devices, plunging the city into darkness and disrupting the Caliph's communications. In Tokyo, ancient samurai swords, family heirlooms, clashed against alien exosuits, their blades finding the cracks between armor plates. Marcus led his troops personally in Washington, D.C., directing squads of soldiers outfitted with hybrid railguns. As the Capitol burned behind him, Marcus fired shot after shot, his railgun humming with each pull of the trigger. The Caliph began retreating, their forces dwindling. Commander Frey, watching from the XT-97 cruiser's bridge, seethed. "How are they defeating us?" he snarled. Lieutenant Nara hesitated. "They're using their environment to their advantage. Their technology may be behind, but their tactics are adaptive. We underestimated them. Then perhaps it's time we stop holding back." Vr's eyes glowed coldly. "Prepare the orbital cannon. Operation Iron Sky." In the ironclad bunker, alarms blared. Marcus's communications officer turned pale as she read the incoming data. "General, Commander Vr is powering the orbital cannon. They're targeting New York, London, and Beijing simultaneously." Marcus's fists tightened. "Helena, is Project Iron Sky operational?" The scientist hesitated. "It's still untested, but yes, we can activate the satellite disruptors." Iron Sky was Earth's last line of defense. A network of satellites equipped with electromagnetic pulse emitters capable of disabling orbital weapons for short periods. It was a desperate gamble, but there was no other choice. "Do it," Marcus ordered. High above the Earth, the Iron Sky satellites activated. Pulses of energy rippled across the atmosphere, striking the XT-97 cruiser like waves crashing against a cliff. On the bridge, lights flickered, and the ship's systems began to fail. Vr's claws raked across his console in fury. "What is happening?" Lieutenant Nara's eyes widened as she analyzed the incoming data. "They've disrupted our orbital systems. Our weapons are offline." Vrid's scaled face twisted with rage. "Then we take the fight to them directly. Deploy the ground forces. I will lead them myself." The final battle. As the XT-97 descended over Washington, D.C., Marcus stood on the ruined streets, watching the enormous warship loom overhead. The final confrontation had arrived. He activated his radio. "To all remaining forces, this is it. Hold the line. For Earth, The ground shook as Caliph soldiers poured from the cruiser, but this time, humanity stood ready. Tanks, drones, and railguns fired in unison, tearing into the enemy ranks. Marcus faced Commander Vray head-on as the Caliph leader stepped onto the battlefield. "You should have surrendered," Vray growled. Marcus smirked. "Funny. I was going to say the same to you." With that, he raised his railgun and fired. The tides of war. The air rippled with heat as plasma bolts seared through the streets of Washington, D.C. Smoke billowed from crumbling buildings, the once proud monuments now scared by battle. Commander Vray led his forces with cold precision, each step of his heavy boots echoing through the cracked pavement. His crimson war blade hummed at his side, reflecting the glow of fire and destruction around him. Across the battlefield, General Marcus Graves emerged from behind a charred tank, his railgun humming softly as it powered up. Soldiers flanked him, their faces grim but determined. "Steady," Marcus whispered into his comms. "Let them come to us." The Caliph advanced, unaware of the trap lying in wait. Hidden among the rubble, snipers tracked their movements, fingers resting lightly on the triggers of their disruptor rifles. Drones circled overhead, feeding live data to Marcus's command screen. Vray's yellow eyes narrowed as he scanned the human defenses. "Primitive," he muttered, though the word lacked the confidence it once held. He raised his hand, signaling his troops to attack. The Caliph charged forward, energy blades igniting in bursts of blue and green. Then the first shots rang out. The ambush. From the rooftops, hidden snipers unleashed a coordinated volley of disruptor rounds. The bullets cut through Caliph energy shields as if they were mist, tearing into the soldiers beneath. Several Caliph fell instantly, their bodies crumpling to the ground in twisted heaps. Explosions erupted along the flanks as concealed mines detonated, scattering debris and alien limbs in all directions. From the shadows, human guerrilla fighters poured out, wielding everything from jury-rigged plasma rifles to steel batons. Marcus led the charge, his railgun thundering with each precise shot. Beside him, Sarah, now clad in scavenged Caliph armor, fired her sniper rifle with surgical accuracy. "Push them back," Marcus roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. Commander Vray's counterstrike. Vray snarled, deflecting disruptor rounds with his warblade. Each swing of the blade left a trail of scorched air in its wake. His soldiers rallied behind him, forming tight formations to shield themselves from human fire. "Deploy the drones," Vray barked. Small, sleek Caliph combat drones zipped into the sky, unleashing laser barrages onto human positions. Marcus's troops scrambled for cover as the ground lit up with deadly precision strikes. Sarah's father was struck by a stray bolt, crumpling to the ground with a grunt. "Dad!" Sarah screamed, rushing to his side. Marcus knelt beside him, checking his vitals. "He's alive, but barely." Sarah's eyes burned with fury. "We need to end this now." Marcus nodded grimly. Time for the second phase. Unleashing the juggernauts. Marcus raised his comm to his lips. "Ironclad, bring in the juggernauts." Far in the distance, the earth trembled as massive metal behemoths emerged from underground bunkers. These towering machines, nicknamed juggernauts, were humanity's greatest achievement, reverse-engineered from salvaged alien tech and reinforced with steel and ceramic plating. Each juggernaut stood over 40 feet tall, its arms bristling with railgun cannons and missile pods. "Let's see how well they laugh at these," Marcus said with a smirk. The juggernauts opened fire, their railguns punching through Caliph formations like paper. Rockets streaked through the air, slamming into Vray's armored vehicles and sending them tumbling end over end. The duel. As the battle raged on, Vray zeroed in on Marcus, his eyes blazing with cold fury. "You dare to stand against me?" Vray growled, striding forward with his warblade raised. Marcus stepped out from behind cover, tossing aside his empty railgun. He drew a heavy-duty plasma pistol from his side. "Someone has to," Marcus replied coolly. The two leaders clashed in the heart of the battlefield, warblade against plasma fire. Sparks flew as Vr's blade carved through the air, narrowly missing Marcus by inches. Marcus fired shot after shot, but Vr deflected them with unnatural speed. "You fight well," Vr admitted, pressing forward. "But your fate is sealed. Humanity will fall." Marcus grimaced, blocking a strike with the armored plating on his forearm. "Funny, people like you have been saying that for centuries." The turning point. As the duel raged on, Sarah led a small team of soldiers toward the XT-97 cruiser's landing pad. Their mission was simple: disable the cruiser's engines and prevent the Caliph from retreating. "We plant charges on the thrusters, then get out," Sarah instructed. One by one, they slipped past patrols and scaled the cruiser's underbelly. With careful hands, they planted EMP charges along the main thrusters. Suddenly, alarms blared across the cruiser. Caliph reinforcements poured from the interior, opening fire. "We're compromised," Sarah shouted. One of her team members was hit, tumbling from the cruiser to the ground below. "Detonate the charges now." With trembling fingers, Sarah activated the detonator. The charges erupted in a cascade of blue energy, crippling the cruiser's engines. Smoke and flame billowed from the ship as it groaned, sinking slowly to the ground. Victory at a cost. The XT-97 cruiser crashed onto the battlefield, flattening alien troops beneath its weight. Marcus glanced up, a faint smile touching his lips. "Looks like your ride's grounded, Vr." Vr's eyes blazed with fury, but the fight was leaving him. His forces lay in ruin, and his cruiser was crippled. "This isn't over," Vr spat, retreating toward the few remaining Caliph ships. Marcus let him go. "It never is." As the remaining Caliph forces withdrew, cheers erupted across the battlefield. Humanity had won, at a cost. Marcus turned to Sarah, who knelt beside her father, tears streaming down her face. "He's breathing," she whispered. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "You fought well today. Your father would be proud." A new era begins. The war wasn't over, but humanity had proven itself once again. The galaxy had underestimated Earth, and now they would think twice before invading. As Marcus looked up at the sky, he knew one thing for certain: this was just the beginning. The aftermath, and the gathering storm. Smoke still hung thick over Washington, D.C. as dawn crept over the horizon. Fires smoldered, and the ruins of Caliph war machines lay strewn across the battlefield like broken relics of a failed conquest. The XT-97 cruiser, once a symbol of galactic superiority, now sat crippled at the heart of the capital, half buried in the rubble of its own collapse. General Marcus Graves stood atop the remains of an overturned Caliph walker, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The cheers of victory had faded, replaced by the grim reality of what came next. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The cost of survival. Marcus walked slowly through the makeshift triage center set up near the National Mall. Rows of injured soldiers and civilians lay beneath canvas tarps, medics moving between them like ghosts. Many of the wounded bore burns from plasma fire. Others carried scars that went far deeper, psychological wounds from witnessing the destruction of their homes and families. He paused beside Sarah, who knelt by her father's bedside. The older man was pale but alive, his arm wrapped in bandages, and his breathing shallow. "You fought well," Marcus said softly, placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder. She looked up, her eyes weary but resolute. "We didn't have a choice. They would have killed us all." Marcus nodded. "And because of people like you, they didn't." But even as he spoke the words, doubt gnawed at him. The Caliph were not the kind to accept defeat lightly. The XT-97 was just one ship. The Caliph Armada stretched across the galaxy like a shadow, and sooner or later, they would return. A message from the stars. 2 days later, as humanity began the slow process of rebuilding, a transmission echoed across the globe. Every screen flickered to life, displaying the face of a Caliph unlike any seen before. His scales were deep crimson, the color of Caliph royalty, and his eyes burned with a predatory gleam. He sat upon an ornate throne, surrounded by alien guards clad in obsidian armor. "I am Overlord Xeric, ruler of the Caliph Dominion," the figure declared, his voice cold and precise. "You have defied us, and for that, you will pay dearly." Across the world, crowds gathered in silence to watch the broadcast. Xeric leaned forward, his gaze piercing through the screen. Earth is no longer a mere target. It is now a symbol of defiance, but symbols can be destroyed. The screen flickered off, leaving behind an uneasy quiet. Marcus clenched his fists. "So, they're coming back." Sereth stepped beside him. "Let them. We'll be ready." Operation Phoenix. Deep beneath the Rockies, in the ironclad bunker, Marcus convened with humanity's brightest minds. Holographic blueprints hovered above the table, displaying schematics for new war machines, starships, and weapons reverse-engineered from salvaged Caliph technology. Dr. Helena Park tapped the blueprints, expanding a detailed image of a colossal starship, the Phoenix-class dreadnought. "This is our answer," she explained. "A hybrid vessel, capable of interstellar travel and equipped with disruptor cannons powerful enough to level an entire fleet." Marcus studied the design. The dreadnought bristled with railguns, energy shields, and experimental cloaking technology. It was humanity's first step toward becoming a spacefaring power, a declaration that Earth would no longer be prey. "How long until it's operational?" Marcus asked. Helena hesitated. 18 months, at best." "We don't have 18 months," Marcus muttered. "The Caliph could be back in half that time. That's why we've also begun modifying existing air forces into space-capable fleets," Helena added. "It won't be pretty, but it will give us something to fight with when the time comes." The Galactic Council. Meanwhile, on the outer edge of the Milky Way, a secret meeting took place. Representatives from dozens of alien civilizations gathered within a sprawling space station, the chambers alight with the soft glow of distant stars. A thin, insectoid ambassador clicked its mandibles nervously. Earth resisted the Caliph assault. "This complicates things." A feline-like emissary narrowed its golden eyes. "It complicates nothing. The Caliph's arrogance was their undoing." Another voice, deep and guttural, spoke from the shadows. "The humans are dangerous. If they are not dealt with, they will not stop at defending their world. They will expand." The chamber fell into uneasy murmurs. One of the council leaders, an ancient creature with translucent skin, raised a hand to silence the crowd. "Let the Caliph handle their own war, but if Earth survives, we must decide if they are friend or foe." A gathering storm. Back on Earth, Marcus stood atop the crumbled steps of the Lincoln Memorial, staring into the sunset. The city below bustled with rebuilding efforts, but on the horizon, dark clouds gathered. Sarah approached, her new Caliph armor glinting in the fading light. "Do you think they're really coming back?" she asked. Marcus exhaled slowly. "I know they are." Sarah smiled faintly. "Good. I'd hate for all this training to go to waste." Marcus chuckled, though the weight of leadership pressed heavily upon him. He had seen wars before. But this was something different. Humanity stood at the precipice of something greater. A chance to break free from the shackles of their world and join the stars. But the galaxy was unforgiving, and survival meant embracing the brutality of war. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Marcus tightened his grip on his rifle. "Let them come," he whispered. "Earth will always stand." The forge of the Phoenix. The colossal steel doors of the ironclad bunker groaned as they parted, revealing a cavernous hangar bathed in the glow of overhead lights. At the center of it all, towering over the surrounding machinery, sat the partially constructed Phoenix-class dreadnought. The sheer scale of the vessel dwarfed everything in the bunker, a testament to humanity's defiance and desperation. General Marcus Graves stood on an elevated platform, his gaze fixed on the dreadnought's incomplete frame. Engineers and scientists swarmed around the vessel like ants, welding, assembling, and calibrating its systems. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered as she approached Marcus from behind. She wore a newly issued exosuit crafted from salvaged Caliph armor, sleek yet deadly. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "It'll have to be more than beautiful. It needs to be a monster." He stepped closer to the ship, placing his gloved hand on the cold steel hull. This was humanity's first step into the stars, and it would carry the weight of an entire planet's survival. The reluctant allies. As the dreadnought took shape, the world's leaders gathered in secret beneath the mountains of Norway. The remnants of the Global Defense Coalition, GDC, sat around a circular table, the air thick with tension. Prime Minister Liu of China broke the silence first. "We can't win another battle like DC. Our resources are stretched thin. We need help." President Rain of the United States leaned forward. "Help from who?" "The Caliph's return is inevitable. No other species has stepped up to defend Earth." A soft voice interrupted the argument. "Maybe we don't need their help to fight, just to survive long enough to finish the Phoenix." All eyes turned to Ambassador Drell, the GDC's liaison to the scattered alien black markets. "There are factions out there who despise the Caliph," Drell explained. "Pirates, exiles, and scavengers operating beyond the Dominion's control. They don't trust humanity, but they hate the Caliph more." Marcus, tuning in via HoloLink, crossed his arms. "You're suggesting we align with warlords?" Drell smirked. "I prefer to call them opportunists. And right now, opportunity favors us. The search for firepower." A week later, Marcus and Sarah boarded a repurposed Caliph transport ship, departing Earth's orbit under a blanket of cloaking technology. Their destination was the Fringe Worlds, the lawless outer rim of the galaxy where the Caliph's influence waned. The transport shuddered as it breached the atmosphere of Vorak 9, a world notorious for its black markets and mercenary outposts. As they descended, Marcus glanced at Sarah. "Remember, we're not here to make friends. We need weapons, ships, and fighters." Sarah grinned. "Relax, General. I blend right in." The transport touched down amidst a sprawling scrapyard filled with alien wreckage and scavenged starships. The moment the ramp lowered, the cacophony of alien voices and machinery overwhelmed their senses. A towering, four-armed alien stepped forward, its scared body a testament to countless battles. Garrick, a former Caliph commander turned warlord, grunted as he examined the humans. "You're either brave or stupid to come here," Garrick growled in broken English. "Maybe both," Marcus replied, locking eyes with the warlord. "I need weapons, lots of them." Garrick's eyes narrowed. "And what do you offer in return?" Marcus held out a holopad, activating blueprints of Earth's railgun technology, something the galaxy had never seen before. Garrick's grin revealed sharp, predatory teeth. "I like you, human. The deal with the devil." Over the next several days, Marcus and Sarah brokered deals across Vorak 9. They traded human tech for alien firepower, securing missile platforms, EMP cannons, and hundreds of mercenaries willing to join the fight against the Caliph. One such mercenary, Kale, was a former pilot from a species believed to have been wiped out by the Caliph. He approached Marcus one evening in the dim light of a cantina. "I heard about DC," Kale said, nursing a glass of some unidentifiable alien brew. "You're lucky to have survived." Marcus nodded. Luck had nothing to do with it. It was grit. Kale smirked. "Then let me give you some advice. The Caliph aren't the type to let humiliation slide. When they return, it won't be with a single cruiser. It'll be with a fleet." Marcus's expression hardened. "That's why we're building the Phoenix. And when they come, we'll be ready." Kale chuckled darkly. "For your sake, I hope you are." Return to Earth. 3 weeks after leaving, Marcus's transport returned to Earth, escorted by salvaged alien frigates and a small fleet of mercenary ships. As they descended through the atmosphere, Marcus felt a flicker of hope. The Phoenix-class dreadnought was nearing completion. Karuk's weapons would reinforce Earth's defenses, and across the globe, humanity trained harder than ever, preparing for the inevitable. Yet, even as the planet braced for war, Marcus knew that survival hinged on one thing: striking first. Project Starfire. Helena Park met Marcus on the landing platform, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "While you were gone, we completed the prototypes for Project Starfire." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I thought Starfire was years away from testing." Helena gestured for him to follow. "We accelerated the process. Starfire is humanity's first offensive orbital platform, capable of planetary bombardment and interstellar assault. It's the key to taking the fight to them before they return." In the hangar, Marcus stared at the sleek, obsidian-black Starfire platform. It hung suspended, bristling with plasma turrets and disruptor missiles. "Marcus," Helena said quietly, "we don't just have to defend Earth anymore. We can hunt them." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Good. Let's give them a reason to fear us." The hunt begins. The first stars blinked into view over Earth's night sky as Project Starfire entered its final phase of calibration. Suspended high above the planet in low orbit, the massive orbital platform reflected the faint light of the sun, its silhouette a dark harbinger of humanity's growing might. Below, the Phoenix-class dreadnought stood nearly complete in the ironclad bunker, its engines primed and its hull bristling with railguns, disruptor cannons, and missile arrays. But Marcus Graves wasn't celebrating. He stood at the edge of a launch bay, gazing at the night sky. In his hand, he held a worn photograph, one taken before the war, before Earth became the battleground for humanity's survival. The faces of his wife and daughter smiled up at him, frozen in time. They had been among the first casualties when the Caliph descended upon the Earth's major cities. Sarah approached quietly, her footsteps soft against the steel floor. She noticed the photo but said nothing. Some wounds, she knew, were best left untouched. "We're close," she said instead, glancing up at the shimmering outline of Starfire above. "I heard Helena's team is installing the final targeting systems. The Phoenix will be ready in days." Marcus's gaze didn't shift. Not soon enough. She leaned against the railing beside him. "I thought you'd be happy. We're stronger than ever. When the Caliph return, we'll crush them." Marcus finally turned to face her, his expression hard. "You don't understand. We can't afford to wait for them to return. They're regrouping somewhere out there, planning their revenge. We need to find them first." Sarah's brow furrowed. "Find them? Out in the galaxy? We barely know what's beyond our system." Marcus tucked the photo away and straightened. "Then it's time we find out." Forging Earth's first strike fleet. Inside the ironclad war room, a holographic projection of the Milky Way galaxy hovered above the table. Marcus, Helena, and several military strategists studied the swirling map, their eyes fixed on distant star clusters marked in red. Helena tapped one of the clusters near the galactic rim. "We believe the Caliph have several staging grounds here, beyond the northern expanse. It's where their fleets regroup before large-scale invasions." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "How long until we can send recon?" Helena exhaled slowly. "Marcus, this isn't just a scouting mission. If we send the Phoenix and Starfire into Caliph space, we're committing to war. There's no coming back from that." "I'm not interested in coming back," Marcus said coldly. "I'm interested in making sure they never return." The room fell into silence. Finally, Admiral Kale, the mercenary pilot who had allied with Marcus on Vorak 9, spoke up. "I know the Northern Expanse. Caliph warlords operate there, but it's also crawling with exiles and rogue factions. You'll need more than firepower to get through." Marcus glanced at Kale. "You're volunteering." Kale grinned. "I've got nothing better to do." Marcus looked around the table. Then it settled. "We take the Phoenix, Starfire, and a small strike fleet into Caliph space. This ends now. Into the unknown." 1 week later, the Phoenix-class dreadnought lifted off from Earth, its engines igniting with a roar that shook the ground for miles. Accompanied by the Starfire orbital platform and a fleet of mercenary ships, it breached the upper atmosphere, ascending into the dark expanse of space. Marcus stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, staring out at the planet shrinking behind them. Sarah stood beside him, adjusting the controls on her console. "This is it," she said quietly. "Humanity's first step into the stars." Marcus's gaze didn't waver. "Let's make sure it's not our last." As the fleet accelerated, Earth faded into a distant speck. Ahead lay the uncharted void, filled with dangers they couldn't yet comprehend. Contact in the expanse. The northern expanse stretched before them like a black abyss, dotted with the faint glow of dying stars. The fleet drifted quietly, its weapons primed and shields raised. Cal's voice crackled over the comms. "I'm picking up something ahead. Could be Calith, but I'm not sure." Marcus nodded. "Take us closer." The Phoenix glided forward, its massive hull cutting through the darkness. As they approached, the source of the signal became clear, a Calith refueling station, floating among a field of shattered ships. Sarah frowned. "What happened here?" Helena's voice filtered through the bridge speakers. "This isn't just battle damage. This was a massacre." Marcus's expression darkened. "By who?" Before anyone could answer, a new signal lit up the scanners, something far larger than the refueling station. "Marcus," Cal said sharply, "we've got incoming." Emerging from the debris field was a Calith warship, but it wasn't alone. Beside it, an alien vessel of unknown design drifted forward, its jagged hull brimming with weapons. "That's not Calith," Sarah whispered. Marcus's hand hovered over the control panel. "Open a channel." Static filled the air before a distorted voice responded. "Humans, we have been watching you." Marcus exchanged a glance with Sarah. "Who are you?" The alien voice replied, cold and calculating. "We are the Valkar. And if you continue this path, you will face extinction." Cal cursed under his breath. "I've heard stories about the Valkar. They don't just conquer, they erase entire species." Marcus's grip tightened on the console. "Let them try." The bridge fell silent as the Valkar warship powered its weapons. The Caliph had been dangerous, but this was something far worse. For the first time, Marcus wondered if humanity was truly ready for the galaxy's horrors. The fire that burns the stars. The Valkar warship loomed ahead, its angular hull glinting beneath the pale light of distant stars. The vessel resembled a predator lying in wait, exuding a silent, menacing presence that dwarfed even the Phoenix-class dreadnought. Every weapon along its surface thrummed with restrained energy, as if one wrong move would ignite the void into a battlefield. On the bridge of the Phoenix, General Marcus Graves stood tall, his gaze unwavering as the distorted voice of the Valkar echoed through the comms. "You venture into places you do not belong, human." Marcus's grip tightened on the edge of the control panel. His soldiers looked to him for direction, the weight of their mission pressing heavily upon his shoulders. "We belong wherever survival leads us," Marcus replied coldly. "Step aside, or we'll make room." A low, predatory laugh filtered through the speakers. Bold words. "The Caliph failed to break you. Perhaps it is time for the Valkar to finish what they could not." The bridge tensed. Helena's voice broke the tension. "Marcus, I'm detecting significant energy signatures coming from the Valkar vessel. They're charging weapons." Sarah leaned forward. "Your orders?" Marcus's eyes narrowed, cold fire burning behind them. "Charge disruptor cannons and bring Starfire to full readiness. If the Valkar want to test us, we'll show them exactly why Earth survived the Caliph. First strike." The void erupted in fire as the Valkar vessel opened fire, lances of crimson energy streaking toward the Phoenix. The dreadnought's shields flared brightly under the onslaught, but they held firm. "Return fire," Marcus barked. The Phoenix roared to life. Railgun batteries launched a volley of hypersonic projectiles, each one glowing with disruptor energy designed to penetrate even the thickest hull plating. The Starfire platform, hovering in formation behind the fleet, unleashed a salvo of plasma torpedoes, streaking toward the Valkar ship like falling stars. The Valkar warship twisted gracefully, evading some of the torpedoes, but not all. Explosions rippled across its hull, causing the massive vessel to shudder. Kel's voice crackled over the comms. "They're fast, but not invincible. Focus fire on their engines," Marcus ordered. "We're not here to kill them. We're here to send a message." The Shadow Fleet emerges. As the Phoenix's guns pounded the Valkyr vessel, a new signal appeared on the scanners. "Multiple contacts inbound," Sarah called out, her fingers dancing across the console. It's not just one ship. They'd brought an entire fleet. One by one, Valkar warships began decloaking around the battlefield, their hulls black as obsidian and nearly invisible against the void. Marcus's expression hardened. "So that's how they fight." Cale cursed under his breath. "We're outnumbered." "Good," Marcus growled. "Now they can see what we're capable of." The wrath of Earth. "Bring the Starfire into firing position and deploy the juggernauts," Marcus commanded, his voice steady despite the odds. From the underbelly of the Phoenix, the massive Juggernaut-class war mechs emerged, towering machines designed for deep space combat, their arms bristling with railguns and missile arrays. Each one was piloted by Earth's finest soldiers, trained to command the mechanical behemoths in zero gravity. As the Valkar fleet encircled the Phoenix, the Juggernauts ignited their thrusters, launching toward the nearest enemy vessels. "Engage at will," Marcus ordered. The battlefield exploded in fire and steel. The Juggernauts descended upon the Valkar fleet with relentless fury, their weapons tearing through the enemy ranks. One Valkar destroyer shattered under the combined fire of two mechs, its hull breaking apart in a cascade of molten metal. The Starfire platform rotated, its massive orbital cannons locking onto the largest Valkar cruiser. A single blast from its main gun ripped through the enemy ship's shields, leaving it drifting and crippled. The duel in the stars. As the battle raged, Marcus's eyes locked onto the primary Valkar warship, the one that had first contacted them. It lingered at the edge of the battlefield, watching, as if waiting for Marcus to make a fatal mistake. "Focus the Phoenix's main guns on their flagship," Marcus ordered. "I want that ship burning." Helena hesitated. "Marcus, if we push them too hard, we risk provoking the entire Valkar Dominion." Marcus's gaze remained fixed on the enemy ship. "They already see us as a threat. The only difference now is whether they fear us enough to stay away." The Phoenix's main railgun cannon aligned, charging with a low hum that reverberated through the dreadnought's frame. Fire. The railgun unleashed a burst of kinetic fury, striking the Valkar flagship dead center. The enemy vessel's shields flared violently before collapsing, leaving a gaping wound along its hull. But as the flames engulfed the ship, the Valkar vessel retaliated. With lightning speed, it unleashed a pulse of energy that arced toward the Phoenix. The blast struck hard, sending shockwaves through the dreadnought systems. Sparks erupted across the bridge. "We've lost aft shields," Sarah shouted. Marcus steadied himself. "Redirect power to forward defenses. We finish this now." A message to the galaxy. The Starfire platform descended, positioning itself directly above the Valkar flagship. The orbital cannons lowered once more, their barrels glowing with charged plasma. The Valkar ship, damaged and struggling, began to retreat. Marcus activated the comms, broadcasting across the battlefield. "This is General Marcus Graves of Earth. You came to test our strength. Now you see the fire that burns within humanity. Return to your dominion. And if you dare cross our path again, know that Earth will not be your conquest. It will be your grave." The Valkar hesitated for a long moment. Then, one by one, their ships began to vanish, cloaking and retreating into the dark. The dawn of a new era. As the last Valkar ship disappeared, silence returned to the void. Sarah let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "They're gone." Marcus lowered his weapon. "For now." Kel's voice echoed through the comms. You made enemies today, General. But you also made Earth a name they won't forget. Marcus glanced at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Caliph still lurked, and the Valkyr would regroup. But Earth had done more than survive. It had thrived. And in the cold reaches of space, humanity's fire would continue to burn. The end.